Welcome to the Live Truly Free podcast, where we provide fatherly guidance to entrepreneurs at any level of their journey. Hi, I'm George Black, and this is AJ. Are you ready for this week's adventure of building great companies and discovering the Live Truly Free lifestyle for entrepreneurs? Awesome, let's get started.
So I was wondering, do you guys ever have this feeling that you're just kind of like stuck where you are in life? Like you're not going anywhere, you've plateaued, you've stopped moving up? Because I know I'm talking to a lot of people who experience this, and I kind of feel it in some ways, and I'm meeting a lot of other people who express it to me as well. It's just you hit this point where you just aren't going up anymore.
Yeah, kind of like you're hitting a barrier or you're running into this invisible wall. You can't see what it is.
Exactly. And I know it's happening for a lot of people across the country. And then when we were recording the audiobook, it hit me when we got to the essence of the Navigator that, this process might be bigger than business. This might be a way to address all of those people.
For new friends who are joining us, the book is The Next Level Entrepreneur. Focus your passions, map your directions, and build a great company. So your question is, could this just apply to life, not even a business?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, in some ways, it may be better.
Okay. So if we wanted to apply it to our life, how do we get started?
Yeah, so you've got to go to this question. Where are you headed? And the reason you have to go to that question is it's like, well, I've hit a wall. I go, well, where are you going? Because maybe the wall's in the way, or maybe there's not a wall. And you go, well, I should have been promoted by now, or I should have fill in the blank. And that will give you an inkling of direction.
Okay. And so that's kind of just your first question. Like, you're stuck and you're not going where you want to go. But in order to go where you want to go, you have to know where you want to go. It seems like a pretty obvious starting point.
Right. Yes. No, it absolutely is the starting point. And even if you don't, so just to let you know, in the first part of the book, the focus your passions, everybody has passions, right? So it's like you have to get them focused. So that is a real clue to where you're headed. And so the more you can understand that and know that about yourself, the better it will be. However, you don't have to have that super clear to break through whatever this invisible barrier is.
Okay, because you're kind of saying you don't have to know exactly what it is, but kind of maybe in just the general direction. Like it's almost like I'm seeing, we want to go over there, but I see this object in the way. I don't know exactly where over there is, but there's an object in the way and you can at least get over that one first.
Right. And so I call these success barriers. And it's like you bounce off of it's like an invisible ceiling. And you bounce off of it and you make another run for it and you keep bouncing. And so like in a company, for example, it could look like you added 2 employees, but you lost 1, and you can never get more than about 20 employees. You're always just stuck at that number. Mm-hmm. You want to be at 50, but you can't ever seem to get, in life, it may be you're trying for different positions in the company, and, you make a little headway here, but then there's a setback over here, mm-hmm. Or they hire somebody else in who got into the door before you. I mean, it's like weird stuff happens.
Yeah. And that weird stuff, it's inevitable, right? Like when you're trying to go where you're headed, weird stuff happens. Like you're in the world. There's a complex variety of variables out there.
Wasn't it Forrest Gump who said, happens?
Yeah, exactly. That happens, and you just have to figure out a way to deal with them. And so we're kind of just naturally going through this process because it is really so natural in how you do it. Like you're almost making a story for yourself. And so we know where we're going. We see a problem, and the problem's inevitably going to get there. So now the question is, what are you going to do about it? Right?
Right. We've just recorded the audiobook. We'll keep you posted on when that's available. The book is letters. So there's a young entrepreneur named Max. AJ reads Max, and I'm reading Mr. A, who is the seasoned entrepreneur. And Mr. A writes Max this section called The Essence of the Next Level Navigator, which is the strategic process I've incorporated into the book. What Mr. A explains is that if you know where you're headed, then what are the obstacles that are coming against you? Well, in this case, you already know. You're hitting some sort of wall, hitting some sort of barrier, and your career's not progressing, or you're not getting whatever it is that you're looking for. And you know what that is. And so just kind of fill in that blank, okay? So that's the obstacle. So what this process is it's like we want to start talking about strategies to overcome that obstacle.
Yeah. And so just to make it completely clear, when you say a strategy to overcome this, what do you mean by that?
Right. There's a chapter in the book called Strategies and Tactics. And it's actually a distillation of a lot of big strategic thinking, like Army War College kind of thinking. I mean, this is big stuff. And I wanted to boil it down to one thing. How do I know I've written a good strategy?
Yeah.
And here's what I've come up with. And I've tested this with very smart people. And a strategy is something that shapes the future. So think about it shaping your future, okay? A tactic achieves an objective. So for example, let's say you see another position in the company, okay? And you want to move over to that position, okay? A tactic would be, what are the things I need to do to get that position? That's tactical.
Mm-hmm.
A strategy is going to leapfrog over that position and go, I want to be in a leadership role in this area of the company.
Okay.
And so so my strategy is to be in that leadership role, I've got to get this position.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it looks exactly the same.
But to make that a little more clear, wouldn't that position, getting that position, that's your first tactic into getting your strategy?
That is correct. That is correct. Because what's different here is rather than operating from tactic to tactic to tactic, you need an overarching strategy. What is going to shape your future? And because if you got that position, you're already thinking about the next position.
Yeah.
Right? So what I would say is you need a strategy first and then come in with the tactic.
Okay. And when you have those strategies, are we going to be operating, do you just get one strategy, or I'm imagining you probably need a few to get to your ultimate destination or where you really want to go, right?
Right. So basically you're right, except that really the barrier that you're facing, okay, so it's probably right in your face, okay, and it's very frustrating and it's been there a while. We're using a technique and to develop strategies. So you're right in the sense of multiple strategies, but typically you're going to have multiple obstacles you're going to come up with.
Okay.
And those multiple obstacles are going to have multiple strategies.
Okay.
So in our process, we get rid of we use the obstacles as a way to tease out strategy.
Okay.
Okay. So what I'm doing here with you guys is I'm saying, look, if there's a place you've plateaued in life, okay, come up with brainstorm out just a whole bunch of strategies, okay? And then out of those strategies, begin to start working those strategies and write them down and be asking yourself, how does this shape my future? And so, because you're going to start finding, well, some are more tactics and strategies. So we're just going to set those aside. We may still use them, but we're going to use them a little differently like we just described.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense when you put it that way.
Okay.
And so we're going to probably be operating with multiple strategies as we try to get over this plateau we're all in together. But I figured maybe we could use me as an example and pick just one of those success barriers for my company.
Okay.
And
yeah,
maybe
that
like
would be great.
live workshop it, kind of a live, I'm a Max and you're Mr. A.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one of those big obstacles we're having as a company is getting physical therapists excited about the technology and wanting to incorporate it.
Okay.
So they see the way they're already doing things, and I don't know if it's maybe they don't have a profit incentive or they're just not that motivated for their patients, or they don't, or maybe it's just our device isn't going to provide the extra benefit. They might think it's just a marginal benefit to their patient. But we're really having a hard time getting physical therapists to see the value and wanting to actually incorporate it into their practice.
And that is a barrier. That's an obstacle you're facing right now.
Yeah, and that's kind of the key one to getting
right. Yeah. So let's give a little context. If you haven't listened to previous podcasts, AJ and I have talked about different aspects of his business. But what it is that it's a shoulder rehab device.
Yeah.
And so the therapists you're talking about are physical therapists, and so. One thing I want to do is I want to restate what the barrier is so that I'm clear on it.
Yeah.
All right. So you've got therapists out there, and you can't get, are you not able to get past the receptionist? Are you?
Yeah. That's one of the problems. But even when we get to the therapist and they use the device, they're like, oh, it's a good device. It works. Like it can benefit a patient. But I don't think we need it. Like, that's kind of what they're saying. And to me, I obviously have a bias in thinking that our device provides some innovation.
So, all right, wait. I want y'all to hear something really important. You said something that the second you said it, I go, that's the key to this barrier.
What was it?
They don't see the need.
Yeah.
And so write out, okay, I'm going to give you something else to do here. Write out what the plateau is all about. Write out what all this invisible wall is. What do you keep running into that you can't? Write it out. Because when you write it out and see last week's episode on journaling, it's a great way to do it. This is going to get clear. That will jump out at you. But the second you said it, I go, that's it. I don't need to know anything else. I know what the barrier is.
Yeah.
They don't see the need.
Yeah.
It's not getting past the receptionist. It's not trying to get them excited about the product. It's not about any of that. There's no need. They don't see a need. And we're doing shoulder rehab just fine. Why do I need your device?
Yeah, that's kind of the response I'm getting. So we know the success barrier. They don't see the need.
Right.
How do we begin to map some strategies?
Okay.
And I imagine this is an iterative process where you come up with some things and you think about it more and you come up with some more. So our final concrete strategies aren't going to be decided on in this video. But to get me started, where do we get started to think about these strategies?
Okay, there's some great ways to do this. One is, if you're by yourself, okay, even if you're by yourself, just get note cards or Post-its or something. Put one idea on a card or a Post-it.
Okay.
And come up and just start writing them out. And you can use a felt tip pen. You can just use a ballpoint, something. But you just want to write lots of ideas and don't even look back.
Okay, so just get that deck of note cards.
Yeah, we're going to do that in just a second because I've got some ideas.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you're just going to write them all out because what you want to do is kind of a brain dump of ideas.
Okay.
Now here's the amazing thing about our brains is that you could stop the exercise right there, come back to it tomorrow. Your brain's going to keep working on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go, oh, wait a minute. Now, when you get, and I'm talking like, for like a barrier, I'm talking get a whole bunch of ideas, a dozen or two.
Okay.
Lay them all out and start looking at them because what you're going to see is patterns and you're going to start grouping similar things together.
Okay.
But if you're clear on what the barrier is, your brain is going to focus on strategies. And so strategies that would shape the future would look like what in your case?
Where people see the need?
Yes. I've got to shift the complete trajectory of their thinking.
To where all physical therapists see this as a need. Right. That's the end destination.
Right. If you try to organize these thoughts when you're saying them, you're just going to shut down.
Mm-hmm.
You also cannot evaluate your ideas.
Yeah.
Don't go, oh, that's a dumb idea. No, don't do that. Just put it out there. Okay. So a few ideas, like what I'm thinking about, would be I want to visualize the therapist. I want to visualize that I don't see the need for this. What I'm using is just fine. How can I start to move that thinking? Well, one strategy would be getting a lot of other people using the device and successfully. So I need a track record. All right.
That
now,
sounds like a good one to me.
But that's a chicken and egg thing, right? So the chicken lays the egg first and then hatches the chicken, or
exactly.
You got an egg and it hatches. Which comes first? You know, that's what chicken and egg thing means. All right. So it's okay. Just put it out there as a strategy.
Yeah.
And another one would be testimonials. Another one would be getting the device. So what I'm thinking about is how can I get them experimenting with the device? Another one would be a strategy around that. How can I get a buzz going on this thing? So who are key players?
And I
can I knock off a key player? If I could get one key player to bite on this thing.
Yeah, and I'm starting to see already how this process works. I can imagine you just writing things down.
Yeah.
But now all these questions start coming into your head and you really start flowing. So this is an exercise I'm going to do. Get a deck of 100 note cards and just start writing them out, copy a couple of yours.
They're copyrighted. You can use them, but I'll expect a royalty.
Okay, we'll talk about that off camera.
$1 or something.
But so we just kind of highlighted it, but to summarize it all up, what should our listeners do to start? How can they start this process right now? Right. So we've talked about a lot of things here. So let's boil it all down to, first of all, where are you headed? You got to know that. You got to have some idea. If you go, I don't even know why I'm in this job. Whoa, the barrier doesn't even matter. Yeah.
Okay. The barrier is you, and you need to go figure out what you want to go do. And so then the strategy becomes simple at that point. Start finding, whatever that new direction is. How do I find employment in that way? How can I monetize that? How can I, so you get it. So where are you headed? And then get clear on the barrier. What is this that is in my way? And like I just said, you want to write that out and get some clarity on it. Mm-hmm. And you're looking for that ding. We'll need the sound effects guy to do the ding. and like with yours, it's like they don't see the need. Now cut loose and just go to town and just write. Don't worry if it's a strategy or a tactic. Just write it down. One idea per card or post-it. And because what you want to be able to do, the reason for that is now what you're going to do once you have all those out, and I'm kind of spreading them out all over the table here, I'm going to start moving them around. And some of them aren't going to make it. I'm going to go, yeah, well, if I had $1 million, I could do that. That's not going to happen. So in other words, you're going to go, these three are all kind of the same. And you're going to refine them down to, 4 to 6 really solid strategies.
And then pursue those.
You take all of these strategies, you start boiling them down, and you want to end up with 4 to 6 that you can start to implement, and you will break through. I promise you. You will start to get momentum. You're going to get excited, maybe even joyful, right? And go for it. So for more conversations like this one with me and AJ, check out this video right here. I know you're going to love it. And until next time, may you live truly free.